What's up, guys? Welcome back. In today's video, I'm making some modifications to my open car trailer. This is a 24-foot open trailer that I bought recently, and you guys have seen in a few episodes on the channel. Actually, the episode where I went to get the trailer, as well as when I hauled the Corvair and the 700 both on it together over 12 hours each way to Philadelphia for Tuner Evo. Shortly after I bought the trailer, I bought a winch for it. Partly why I bought this specific trailer was it had a winch plate on it. And as you guys already know, a lot of the cars that I get don't run. So having a winch on the trailer was gonna be key. When I loaded the Corvair and the 700 on it, or when I was first in the measurement stage of just kind of test fitting those two cars and whether or not they would both fit on the trailer, but also be safely secured on the trailer, I realized that if I had a winch on that winch plate, the Corvair would not fit as far forward as it needed to be to get the 700 on the trailer. That being said, the headboard of the trailer is just a 3.5 inch or 3 inch piece of channel that's welded to the headboard of the trailer, and that acts as the front wheel chock when the Corvair goes as far forward as it should. So from the front wheel forward hangs over the tongue of the trailer. So I've kind of been trying to think of a modular design for a winch, something I can take on and off without having to actually unbolt the 4 bolts that hold the winch down. I just drilled those 4 holes in the winch plate for the winch last night because this weekend, the day after tomorrow, I'm headed to South Carolina to see a good friend of mine to possibly bring something back. Now, more on that in that episode because I'm going to film that whole adventure, but I might need the winch for just loading something this weekend. So I thought, well, I'll at least just bolt the winch to the headboard or to the winch plate and not even worry about the mount I'll need for my fair lead or anything like that. But then I got thinking, if I'm gonna do all of this, maybe I make a modular removable setup now, even though there's so much more to be done here in the shop. I'm here now. So what I've done is this is a 12,000 pound winch. I got this at Tractor Supply. This is one of the Traveler winches, 12,000 pounds, and it's cable. Stronger than anything I'll ever need to pull onto my trailer. So I just got back from Tractor Supply and bought this receiver winch mount plate. And I'm sure most of you guys know where I'm going with this. This is actually designed by the same company that makes the winch. So that winch mounts in here, no problem. What I also bought was a 2-inch receiver, just square stock receiver. Inside's 2 inch, outside's about 2.5. And it looks like the fair lead will bolt to the front of that winch plate. All right, so the thought process is, here's the winch plate here. You can see I drilled 4 holes for the winch, literally just last night. The thought process is mount this. It's already got the pinholes drilled in it. Basically mount this receiver to the winch plate. That way the adapter that the winch mounts to can just go in and out whenever I need it. And this will not sit above the channel headboard. So when the Corvair mounts all the way forward, it can the undercarriage can basically sit over the top of this. So originally I thought about welding this right to the winch plate, but I kind of like the idea of making this removable as well. So I'm gonna look at what I got here in the shop for scrap steel to work with. It's not much because I'm still getting moved into this shop, so I don't have a full shelving unit of scrap steel I can basically build a car with like my father does back home in New Hampshire. Definitely got spoiled with that. But I'm gonna see what I got. What I wanna do is I wanna weld this to a piece of plate and then just bolt the plate to the headboard with a couple grade 8 bolts. And that way that whole thing can be removable if necessary. Okay, so I've got this piece of 1/2 inch steel, and 1/2 inch is far too overkill for what I'm doing. I really kind of wanted to use something 1/4 inch thick, but the one good thing about this 1/2 inch piece that I'll clean up and ultimately use is that the flange on the front of the actual receiver sticks down about 1/4 inch. So if I were to use this with a 1/4 inch plate under it, it would basically sit level. Well, this drop down piece on the winch plate sits down farther than 1/4 inch. So if this was mounted on a piece of 1/4 inch plate, this wouldn't be able to mount because this would hit the deck of the trailer before it went in the receiver. So this 1/2 inch piece of plate gives me just enough to where if this is welded to this plate and this plate has holes drilled in it and bolted to the winch plate itself on the trailer, it gives me just enough to sit that flange up off the deck and allows this to fit in. The only thing is I don't have a drill press here in the shop yet, so I'd have to use my drill with my 1/2 inch bit to get through that. So that might be a little tough, but we're working with what we got. So that will probably save me some time to driving down into Chattanooga to go to the steel yard to get a piece of 1/4 inch flat stock. All right, so I kind of gave up on filming this episode because I really wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. The plan was not to make a YouTube episode out of this, but now that I'm like halfway through it, I figured I'd pick this back up. I had a piece of 1/2 inch steel plate that I didn't have to cut. It was basically 5.5 by almost 6. I needed something about 6 by 6, preferably 1/4 inch, but as I mentioned earlier, 1/2 inch would probably do it. Since I don't have a drill press here in the shop yet, I did have to use my cordless drill, and to go through 1/2 inch steel with a 1/2 inch bit, I did it in increments with plenty of oil to keep it lubricated, and got through it, no problem. So I've got one on each side. The receiver's on. I tack welded this side first. Actually, I've got a bead on that side, and I just finished this bead on the back. So I'm gonna put another bead up front here by the bolt hole, and then again on the back on the other side. I think 4 1.25 inch long beads will be more than enough. I'm not pulling something down the road. I'm just trying to pull something onto the trailer. All right, so that's basically it on the receiver to the plate. The receiver is 1/4 inch wall and the plate's 1/2 inch. I only have 030 wire in my welder, so I cranked it right up to make sure I got good penetration. I've got the center holes drilled. This is still kind of setting up. I've got this painted. This is a nice gloss black with a primer. Just went and got some grade 8 zinc hardware. All right, so I don't have a battery box mounted to the tongue of the trailer yet, so I just brought a battery out that's dedicated to the battery box on the trailer. Got everything hooked up and got the hardwired controller in. I did buy the remote one just in case that comes in handy. Well, it's hooked up and it works. So possibly we'll be putting it to work this weekend. And yeah, really stoked to have finally gotten this done. Like I said, originally last night, I drilled those first 4 holes to just static mount the winch, just to be able to use it this weekend. And although I sacrificed a good part of the day doing this and filming it and all of that, I'm glad that it's the way I want it. That way the winch can be mounted quickly and easily without any tools, and it can be removed if it needs to for transport or to fit a car on, or even 2 cars. Next up on the project list for this whole deal is to build a battery box mount holder on the tongue of the trailer. I'll probably mount that as far forward as I can. That way it's out of the way, because that will just be something that stays on the trailer itself. So I'm not going to do that for this weekend. And as I mentioned earlier, all of these things I purchased at Tractor Supply, from the winch to the cradle holder that comes with the actual 2-inch mount, and the receiver I bought at Tractor Supply as well. I believe, if I remember correctly, the winch is right around $380 or $400. The cradle hitch mount itself was about $89, and the receiver itself was about $25. So aside from the hardware, the plate, and welding it together, I'm really not too far in on this whole thing. And it's modular and removable. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. Going to end it there. I know most of these episodes I'm just kind of talking about things that are going on in the shop and things that I'm excited about, the auto unions and getting all those parts and whatnot. But I figured since I was actually building something, simple as it may be, I figured I'd document it and just show you guys what's going on in the shop. So stay tuned for the next episode. We're headed to South Carolina, possibly bringing something home, something I'm really stoked on. So I'll fill you guys in on that in the upcoming episode. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you then.